Welcome to today's Explainer. We're about to embark on a pretty fascinating journey into one of the most unique and vital geopolitical coalitions on our planet. Today, we're exploring the small island developing states, often just called the SIDS. As we dive into these vibrant, complex environments, we're going to uncover not just their physical geography, but the profound human stories and environmental realities that shape them every single day. Here is our agenda. We'll start by defining the SIDS and mapping their global regions. Then, we'll explore their unique geography and ecosystems, examine the daily lives and vulnerabilities of their populations, and finally, discuss the climate threats they face alongside their incredible resilience. Section 1. Defining the SIDS, a unique coalition. So what exactly are these small island developing states, or SIDS? Basically, we're talking about a distinct group of 39 independent countries and 18 territories. The UN actually recognized them as a special case for sustainable development way back at the 1992 Earth Summit. Now, you might be wondering, what unites this incredibly diverse group of nations, from the Caribbean all the way to the Pacific? Well, it's their shared disproportionate vulnerability. They face compounding challenges: remoteness, small but growing populations, limited resources, and an intense susceptibility to global economic shocks. And, perhaps most pressingly, they are on the absolute front lines of extreme weather driven by climate change. Section 2. Mapping the island regions, a global presence. Just look at the sheer geographical spread of these nations. While we call them small island states, in reality they're more like large ocean states. These nations control exclusive economic zones, which are vast areas of the ocean where they have special rights over marine resources. And get this, those zones average a staggering 28 times the size of their actual landmass. Scattered across vast expanses of blue, they are quite literally the guardians of our global oceans. The SIDS are primarily clustered into three distinct subregions. First, you've got the Caribbean, home to nations like Barbados, Jamaica, and Haiti. Next up is the massive Pacific region, which includes places like Fiji, Tuvalu, and Samoa. And finally, there's the AIS region, standing for Africa, Indian Ocean, and South China Sea, featuring absolutely stunning archipelagos like the Maldives, Mauritius, and Cabo Verde. Section 3. Geography and unique ecosystems, from volcanoes to atolls. The physical foundations of these islands are dramatically varied. Take a volcanic island like Tanna and Vanuatu, for example. These islands have steep slopes and generally really fertile soils, though they are prone to severe erosion. But then, contrast that with a low-lying limestone and reef island like Tarawa in Kiribati. These atolls have sandy, nutrient-poor soils and sit literally just meters above sea level, making them incredibly fragile. Because they are so physically isolated, this intense separation shapes life itself, leading to a crucial geographical phenomenon called endemism. This means a species is entirely unique to that one specific geographical location. Their flora and fauna have evolved in ways you won't find anywhere else on Earth. Despite covering less than 0.5% of the world's surface, SIDS are home to over 20% of global biodiversity. But endemism is a double-edged sword. If an endemic species is lost from its island, it is lost to the entire world forever. In these lush, vibrant volcanic environments, everything is highly interconnected. The terrestrial, freshwater, and marine ecosystems operate as one big, delicate machine. For instance, a healthy mountain forest directly protects the coral reef below it by filtering water and stopping soil from washing away. This deep connectivity is the very foundation of both island culture and their physical survival. Section 4. Daily life and vulnerabilities. The human geography. 74 million. Approximately 74 million people live in the SIDS right now, which makes up just under 1% of the global population. Life here is beautiful, but the economies can be fragile, often relying heavily on a narrow resource base, mostly tourism, fisheries, and agriculture. Because local economic opportunities can be pretty limited, a lot of islands experience high levels of immigration. This leads to a heavy reliance on remittances, which is money sent back home by islanders working abroad. In fact, that's now the largest source of external financing for these economies. For many low-lying atolls, like the Maldives or Tuvalu, fresh water is incredibly scarce. Since they don't have rivers or lakes, they rely entirely on catching rainwater and tapping into thin, freshwater lenses that sit just beneath the sandy soil. This exposes them to a critical threat: salinization. When sea levels rise or during extreme droughts, the ocean's saltwater intrudes into this fresh groundwater. It destroys crops and severely threatens the drinking water these communities rely upon just to survive. So, this leads us to an important geographical question. Knowing how limited their physical space is, what do you think are the main human drivers causing land degradation within the SIDS themselves? While the pressures are intense and highly localized, first off, rapid urbanization. You have growing populations, airports, and tourist resorts densely packed onto narrow coastal strips, which leads to wastewater pollution and habitat loss. Secondly, agricultural practices, like slash-and-burn clearing or overgrazing, strip the land of its protective vegetation. And thirdly, extractive industries. Historical legacies of colonial extraction, alongside modern commercial logging and sand mining, severely degrade the natural landscape and cause devastating soil erosion. To put this into perspective, our source material starkly highlights the impacts on human health and the economic losses resulting from climate change and water scarcity often exceed the recovery capacity of SIDS governments. Essentially, the local pressures we just discussed are severely amplified by external global shocks. A single intense tropical cyclone can wipe out decades of development in a matter of hours. Section 5. Climate Threats and Resilience. Fighting for Survival. The data paints an alarming picture. Across the SIDS, 16.5% of land is already officially classified as degraded. Even more shockingly, over 43% of their land area is currently under extreme drought. Changing weather patterns are causing massive tracts of once fertile land to succumb to water scarcity, directly exposing nearly 70% of SIDS populations to the brutal impacts of drought. And here is the core geographical injustice of our time. On one hand, the small island developing states account for less than 1% of global carbon dioxide emissions. But on the other hand, they face the highest disaster recovery costs and climate-attributable economic losses globally relative to their economies. Those who have contributed the absolute least to anthropogenic climate change are paying the heaviest physical, human, and economic price. But the SIDS are not merely victims, they are absolute innovators. To combat these threats, they champion a strategy known as the ridge-to-reef approach. It's a brilliant, holistic method of environmental management. It basically recognizes that what happens at the top of a volcanic ridge directly impacts the coral reef down below. By using nature-based solutions, like restoring upland forests to prevent soil from washing into the sea, or replanting coastal mangroves to absorb storm surges, SIDS protect their populations from the mountaintops all the way down to the ocean floor. Diplomatically, they've also formed a very powerful unified bloc. The Alliance of Small Island States, or AOSIS, has represented these nations since 1990. While they may be small individually, together they punch far above their weight on the global stage. They were actually instrumental in pushing for the 1.5 degrees Celsius warming target in international climate negotiations, and they've relentlessly advocated for a global loss and damage fund to support vulnerable nations. As we conclude our explainer today, it is absolutely vital to remember that the survival of the SIDS is intrinsically linked to our global future. The health of their coral reefs, the preservation of their endemic species, and the safety of their coastlines are not just local issues. They are the ultimate test of our global commitment to sustainable development and environmental stewardship. I'm going to leave you with this final provocative thought to consider. If nations contributing less than 1% of global emissions face the greatest threat to their very existence, what is the geographical and moral responsibility of the rest of the world? It's a huge question. Thank you so much for exploring with me today. Keep asking questions, keep analyzing the geography around you, and I will see you in the next explainer.